And I get it, right? It's hard to comfortably project a place for a guy like Mark Vientos right now. And it's even a little difficult, especially since this guy finished really strong last year, and it feels like David Stearns and the Mets do value him. What Brett Baty's everyday role is going to be with the team right now, Joe, because you look at, obviously you have an infield of Bo Bichette and Francisco Lindor and Marcus Semien, and we think Polanco is truly going to play first, although we know how fluid these things can be. But when you look at these guys, one, you have to discuss the actual trade value, Joe. And you and I have talked over and over again. We've had the Vientos combo every single year for the last 3 years. And it always feels like, why would you sell low? And then when he broke out, it was like, why would you trade Mark Vientos? And then when he struggled again, now the combo is back to, why would you just sell him low for nothing? It's just, that's the never ending part with that. With Baty, Joe, it feels like he's a guy that would have value, but you do have to internally look and go, he's also really valuable to the Mets right now. And I don't know if Mets fans feel that way yet, but you're one key injury away or just lacking depth that Brett Baty does have to play every day. Or what if there's a world that they want to be careful with Polanco, who's been hurt a lot in recent years? He's an awesome bat when things are clicking, but he's been hurt a lot. That I'm just not jumping on this bandwagon right now, Joe, to just trade Brett Baty, try to get something back, because I see a world for him where he is still a very, very valuable piece across the entire season for the Mets.
I think often as fans, we just paint in our mind like, this is the lineup, this is the rotation, and if they're not in it on opening day, then they're not valuable, and you can move them for something and maybe fill a different need. I think Baty's going to play a massive role for this team. The Mets are going to get him some work at first base. I'm sure he's going to take some fly balls in left field because that position is at minimum at flux, right? Like, I know Carson Bench is probably the favorite to end up being the left fielder, but right now it's basically just Carson Bench and Tyrone Taylor. So I'm sure Baty will get some looks in spring training out there. He's a guy that's going to play all over the diamond. Injury, underperformance, or just Baty performing he's going to find his way into the lineup. So this tends to work itself out. And when it comes to trading him, I think he does have pretty high trade value based on his second half and the versatility that he has. But if you trade Brett Baty, I know there was a report out of Pittsburgh that the Pirates were interested in both Baty and Vientos. Like, the Pirates are a team with like a glut of pitching. Like, can you go to them and try to get a Ashcraft or someone like that, or Hunter Barco? Like, yeah, I guess you could, but then what happens if there's one injury? Forget one injury. If there's two injuries, you're then playing like Christian Arroyo, who's like a non-roster guy every day at the major league level. So while depth is important and more important on the pitching side than the offensive position player side, I don't want to act like having depth is a bad thing. So I wouldn't trade Brett Baty, but I do think he has some good trade value if the Mets wanted to look into that. Whereas Vientos, it's funny you mentioned that conversation that we've had where it's just, man, there's something there. Don't sell. And then he actually shows it and the script flips and now we're just snip, snap, just kind of back where we were. And Vientos, like, his role with the Mets right now, it's DH most of the time, some first base, some third base. And I just don't get the feel that he has all that much trade value. And it's almost at the point where, do you want to just dump Vientos because he's a little bit of an awkward fit and not really get much in return? Or do you want to take the chance that you could get, at minimum, some power out of him? Like, if you're not going to get average and on base, like that's feasible, but can you at least get some thump from somebody that you might bat seventh or something in the order? So to me, I probably end up wanting to keep both of these guys for maybe different reasons.
Yeah, it's a strange game. You just think of the combo that we were having about Mark Vientos 2 years ago, and then you think really about the combo we were having about him last year, where we were like, this guy was arguably the best hitter for the Mets in the playoffs when it came down to consistency and driving in runs. And you brought up the thump aspect, Joe, which, was really important to this team right now. I like that the Mets have added a lot of contact, working harder at bats kind of players, and they're going to hit their home runs. But it is nice to have that true when he's right slugger kind of at bat, batter in Mark Vientos. And it's just that the fact is, like, you want to be careful just giving guys away. And I've been really, really low on Kodai Senga going into this offseason, but it's another guy. What is the point of just giving Kodai Senga away? And you also have to wonder, a lot of people look at things a little rigid, and I get why. Baseball can be a rigid league, but everybody looks at the trade deadline and they just think, add, and sell your farm system to get pieces that are going to be plug and play into your everyday operation. And I understand that. But what if there's a world where the Mets get a good first half out of Kodai Senga, but they feel really good about their pitching anyway? And I know we feel so far away from that because last year we couldn't dream of that scenario. But what if the Mets are getting a good year from Freddie Peralta, and obviously Nolan McLean's living up to expectations, and one of the guys on the back end, like a Christian Scott, starts to surprise with an opportunity. And of course, you have David Peterson and Clay Holmes. There's a world where you can offload a major leaguer at the deadline and help a different part of your roster as well. And you'd probably be glad you didn't just get rid of that guy for nothing in the offseason. So you do need to be careful with that entire blueprint and format. And it feels like the Mets are understandably operating right now that way, specifically with Vientos and Senga. And then Baty, to me, Joe, is a different combo because I just agree with you. I think he holds a lot of value internally with the Mets.
Connor, what do we say on this show? You can never have enough pitching. So if Kodai's pitching great and Nolan's pitching great and Peralta's pitching great and you get a breakout in the back end, just have a really good rotation. Let's just keep them all. But right. to your point, like, the rigid nature is not something we need to do. And when we really think about this team building aspect too, teams are building the roster that you see on opening day. That's built for the first month of the season. That's built for first 6 weeks of the season. And these things just change. Things happen. Guys get called up. This roster is going to change a million times, especially in the bullpen, obviously. But to your point about the building to the trade deadline, that's kind of like what made me think about that. Like, right now, we're thinking big picture because that's just where we are. But I just want to remind folks that the general concept of team building is the opening day roster is the opening day roster. And when you look back, like, I'm sure if we pulled up the 2025 opening day Mets roster, we'd be like, that wasn't what we thought it was going to be. And then let alone the August 1st roster, how much different it is. So it's just a ever-changing thing, major league roster throughout the season. And the Mets will have to be, I guess, opportunistic on anything that comes up between now and then. And I think that's something David Stearns is always looking at, ways to improve at the margins.